This Google Sheet contains a lead list of clothing brands in the US. One of the columns holds their website URLs. My goal is to extract specific info from these sites, like whether they are a D2C brand or a boutique, their main niche, their social media links, and even a specific product they are currently selling. I want to add all of this right here as new columns. This way I can easily pre-qualify them, categorize them, and use them to personalize my outreach campaigns. To do this, I'm running my workflow. I click Execute Workflow. I can track the entire process live right from my Google Sheet. As you can see, new columns are automatically created for the leads, and I can check their current status in the newly created processing status column. The level of quality we get here is entirely under my control, which means we have the flexibility to get much better results than those black box paid tools. As it stands right now, this costs less than 1 cent per lead. Now I'm gonna show you how to take this workflow I built using open source tools, customize it for your own needs, and set it up for your business or your clients. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the step-by-step setup, finally pro tips and scaling. Let's start with the setup. Here is our 8-step checklist to get this running. You can follow along on either Mac or Windows. I go to docker.com. In my browser, I will download the Docker Desktop app. I go to Products, click Docker Desktop. From the Download Docker Desktop button, select the one that is compatible with your operating system. I select this one. I install it on my computer. I go to my desktop and run the Docker. I accept the terms. Click Finish. We don't need an account. I click Skip. Now download the 3 files we need from the resources link I provided in the video description. Create a new folder on your desktop called Enrichment Workflow and place those downloaded files inside it. Now, to run self-hosted n8n crawl for AI and our other dependencies using Docker, we are going to open our terminal. If you are on a Mac, type cd followed by a space in the terminal and drag and drop the enrichment workflow folder from your desktop right into the terminal window and hit enter. The whole goal here is just to navigate into the folder we created in our terminal, so we can run the Docker Compose YAML file we downloaded from the terminal. Next, type docker compose up-d and hit enter. This single command will spin up all the necessary apps I have defined in the Docker Compose YAML file for our workflow. All looks green. We can also check what it's done from our Docker Desktop app. Under the Containers tab, we can see our enrichment workflow container is running. I click this. Everything is green, which means we are good to go. For step 4, let's log into our self-hosted n8n app. In Docker Desktop, under the Containers tab, I click on the Enrichment Workflow again. From there, I click the blue link under n8n, which will redirect us to its local address in the browser. I'm creating an owner account for our self-hosted n8n instance. I click Next. I click Get Started. Here, to activate some of the normally paid features on our self-hosted n8n, it will send a link to our email. I click Send me a free license key, go to my inbox, and click Activate license key. It redirects me back to n8n and we are set. I can close this Gmail tab and also this one. Here I go back to the home page. I click Build a Workflow. I click the 3 dots in the top right corner. I click Import from File. I select the part 1 lead dispatcher.json file from the enrichment workflow folder on my desktop. That's done. Now I click Overview from the left menu and I click Create Workflow in the top right corner to create another blank workflow. I do the exact same process again, but this time for the part 2 JSON. Click the 3 dots in the top right, click Import from File, select the part 2 AI scraper and classifier.json file. You will notice a purple section here. It's just a long block of text. Ignore it for now, I will get to it in a bit. In both the part 1 and part 2 workflows here, the nodes colored yellow represent the ones we will actually touch and configure in this video. You don't need to touch the gray ones unless you want to customize things even further. Alright, step 5. First, we will set up exactly what information we want to extract from the websites in the part 2 workflow. I'm zooming into the AI brain section in the workflow to get a better look. The system prompt and JSON schema nodes here are where we tell the LLM exactly what we expect it to give us as a result of analyzing the website content. Normally, writing these out requires a bit of technical knowledge, especially the JSON schema, but I have made this incredibly easy for you without sacrificing any quality, so you won't need any technical skills at all. To do this, I zoom out, double-click the large purple text on the screen, select all of it, and copy it. Next, go to whatever LLM app you use, like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Cloud. I go to Gemini, paste this exact prompt you copied into the chat. At the very bottom of the prompt, you will see a blank area I left for you. Here, just naturally describe the information you want extracted from the website and add it as columns to your Google Sheet. For example, I'm just describing it. Here is what I need from the website. 1. Are they a DTC brand making their own clothes or a boutique selling other brands? Options are D2C, boutique, make your best guess. 2. For find the exact name of one clothing product they are currently selling on the site. Keep it short, max 2 to 3 words. Shorten it if you have to. And then I sent the prompt. From the response you get, copy the text between the system prompt marks. Go back to the part 2 workflow in n8n. Go to the AI brain section. Double-click the system prompt node. Paste it directly into the text area right here. Then close the window from the top right. Now going back to my LLM app, this time I copy the JSON formatted text between the JSON schema marks. Make sure you don't include the marks when copying, because this format needs to be strictly exact for it to work. I go back to my part 2 workflow. I double-click the JSON schema node in the AI brain. I paste the copied text into the JSON field. Then I close it from the top right. And we have completed this step. Now in step 6. We will complete our Google Sheets and OpenAI integrations. In n8n, I click Overview, I click Credentials, I click Add First Credential, I type OpenAI here, I select OpenAI and click Continue. First, I go to openai.com. From the login button, I go to API Platform, I click API Keys, I click Create New Secret Key, I will give my API a name, Enrichment Workflow. Under Permissions, I click Restricted. I click Model Capabilities. Here, I change the value of responses from none to write. Then I set List Models to read. The reason we do this, we are only giving our API key the exact permissions the workflow actually needs. Also a quick reminder, don't share your API key publicly anywhere. I generate my API key by clicking Create Secret Key. Then I click Copy to copy the key. I return to n8n. By the way, I can close this tab. And I paste the OpenAI API key I just generated and copy it into the API key field here. Then I click Save and close the window. OpenAI is ready. I click Create Credential again. This time I type Google Sheets, select Google Sheets OAuth 2 API and click Continue. Our goal now is to generate the client ID and client secret right here, which are required to connect our workflow to our Google Sheets. I will show you how to do this now, or you can always click the Read Our Docs link to jump to N8N's official documentation for the most up-to-date and accurate way to do it. I will basically be following those exact steps right now. We can close this unused tab. Now open the Google Sheet containing your lead list. I go to Google Sheets. Here is mine. Keep in mind the Gmail account you used to create this Google Sheet. Or it will also work with another account that has to the sheet. Next, I go to cloud.google.com. This is where we will generate the client ID and client key we need for Google's services. I signed into the Google account associated with my Google Sheets. I click Console. If this is your first time, check the box and click Agree and Continue. I click the hamburger menu, the 3 lines in the top left corner. From the Products section, I go to APIs and Services and I click Enabled APIs and Services. If you don't have a project yet, click Create Project. I give it a name, Enrichment Workflow, and click Create. In the search bar at the top, I type Google Drive API and click the result. I click Enable to turn this API on for my account. Then in the top search bar, this time I type Google Sheets API and click the result. I click Enable for this API on my account too. Next, I go to OAuth consent screen from the left menu. On the page it redirects me to, I click Get Started. And I fill out this form here. App name, enrichment, workflow, user support email. I click next. Under audience, I select external. I click next. I enter my same email address here again. Click next. I accept the conditions. Click continue and click create. I go to audience on the left menu. Under test users, I click add users. And I type in the email associated with my Google Sheet once again. And I click Save. Now we are going to create the client ID and client secret. From the left menu, I go to Clients. I click Create Client. For application type, I select Web Application. Scroll down to Authorized Redirect URIs and click Add URI. I jump back to N8N, copy the OAuth redirect URL right here. I go back to Google Cloud and paste it here. Then I click Create. And here is our client ID and client secret. I copy them one by one and paste them into the Google Sheets settings back in N8N. Once you do that, the sign in with Google button at the bottom becomes active. I click it and log into the account my Google Sheets belongs to. I click continue. I select all and click continue. Once I see account connected, I close the window and the Google Sheets integration is complete. In step 7, we are going to do a quick pass over all the nodes in our workflows, complete the connections and final configurations on the yellow ones. First, let's make sure our Google Sheet is right in front of us. I actually put it side by side with N8N for a bit, so I can move around easier. I go back to N8N and I return to Workflows in the top menu. I open the Part 1 Lead Dispatcher workflow. I zoom in. I wrote descriptions here explaining what each node does. I double click Global Settings, which is the first node that runs when we trigger the pipeline. Here we need to fill in the match column name and website column name fields to match the column names in our Google Sheet. For match column name, we need to write the name of a column that we know is unique for every row and is never empty. For example, in my table, It could be company name, because company name is unique for every row and is always filled. If I'm not sure if I have a column like that, I can easily create a new index column using a simple formula. I right-click on the letter above my first column A. I select insert one column left. I give my column a name, let's say index col. Then I click on the first empty cell right below it. I type exactly equal row parenthesis -1. I hit enter. I click on this cell again. I double click the blue dot in the bottom right corner, and it will apply this formula to all of our other rows. And our index column is ready. I type the name of this new column into the value field of match column name in my global settings. For the value of website column name, I type the name of the column that holds the website addresses in my sheet. For me, that's company website. I paste this name here. I click execute step. And then I click the little pin button in the top right corner. By doing this, I won't have to run the entire pipeline during this 7th step. I will able to see and use the values this node provides in the upcoming nodes, allowing me to smoothly test everything step by step. I close this window. I go to the next node, fetch leads. I double click. For the credential, I select the Google Sheets account we created in step 6. For resource, I select sheet within document. For operation, I select get rows. When you click the document list here, you will see the Google Sheets documents from your connected Google account. From here, I select the document I want to work on. For sheet, I select the name of the specific sheet where my list is located. From the filters here, you can optionally define conditions if you only want to process rows that meet specific requirements. For example, I exported this lead list from any email finder, which I use to find B2B emails. I don't want to include businesses that have an invalid status in the email validation status column it gave me, because these could put my inbox health at risk. To filter them out, I click Add Filter, I select Email Validation Status and type Valid as the value. This way it will only pull the ones where the status is valid. You can add more based on your own scenario if you like. I click Execute Step and 366 results came back. This means there are a total of 366 results in my list where the email validation status is valid. And I click the pin button in the top right to pin this sample response to the node, just like we did in the previous one. I close this. Now, even though we know it will throw an error because we still have yellow nodes left to complete, I click Execute Workflow just to see what happens. Okay, we still need to complete the rest of the yellow nodes. I go to Send the Worker Webhook node. I double click. This is the node that sends the row over to part 2 to be processed. We're gonna get the address we will paste in the URL field here from the part 2 workflow. To do this, I open the part 2 workflow in a separate browser tab. I go to the same address as this one. I go to part 2 AI scraper and classifier. I double click the very first node here, the webhook. And I copy the test URL here by clicking on it. Before jumping back to the part 1 workflow, I click on Listen for Test Event button on the left. This way we will able to test if the data actually lands here. I jump back to workflow 1, paste the URL I copied right here, and I click Execute Step. We got an error because we still have an incomplete node. But to temporarily bypass this, I close this window, I close these errors. I am disconnecting the Send the Worker Webhook node from the nodes on this side by clicking Delete. I click Execute Workflow. Great, everything looks good up to this point in our workflow. Now before I forget, I'm reconnecting the node to the set status node here. If we go and look at workflow 2, we can see that the data successfully arrived here from workflow 1. Let's pin this from the top right as well to use it while testing. Now since we have already verified this works, we need to switch from using the test URL to production URL. Because the test URL is only active when we click listen for test event, while the production URL will always be listening after we activate the workflow. To complete this change before forgetting, I click production URL, copy the link and replace the test URL in workflow 1 with the production URL. I remove this and paste the one I copied. This node is good to go. I close it. I double click our final yellow node, log initial status. I select the credential. This time our operation is append or update row. I make the exact selections for document and sheet. From mapping column mode, I select map automatically. And for column to match on, I select the index column we defined in the global settings node. I'm skipping the test on this node for now. It relies on that production URL we just set up, which won't actually be active until we publish workflow 2. We will test it all together at the end. We are officially done with workflow 1. Now I'm switching over to workflow 2. We can close this node. We already completed the AI brain part. I double click the yellow node at the very end, save final results. I select the credential. I make sure the operation is append or update row. I make the exact same selections for document and sheet. And again, I ensure the mapping column mode set to map automatically and select my index column, index call for column to match on. I close it and I move down to our last yellow node that we haven't configured yet. Save fallback result. I double click, I make the exact same selections here as the one just before it. Mapping column mode, map automatically, column to match on, index call. I close it and finally I click publish in the top right to make my workflow live. I click publish, got it. We have reached the final step. Actually we forgot one last thing. We need to select the credential in the OpenAI node in workflow 2. I double click the analyze with OpenAI node. From authentication, I select predefined credential type, and from credential type, I type OpenAI and select this one. And I select my OpenAI account I created in step 6. I close this window. I'm also adding a yellow background to this one, because it's one of the nodes that needs to be touched. After this change, don't forget to publish the workflow again. Now we are completely ready to run. I go to the workflow 1. I have N8N workflow 1 open on the left and my Google Sheet sitting on the right. In workflow 1, I click execute workflow and it kicks off. I can see each lead being processed live right inside Google Sheets. It visits each website, grabs the content on the page, extracts the information we need using the OpenAI model, and saves it directly to our table in real time. You can then take this information and use it for outreach personalization, pre-qualifying leads, or whatever other business-related purpose you have in mind. Now I will share a few ideas on what can be improved, added, and what the limitations are in the setup. The first thing that comes to mind is that we are currently only analyzing the content of a single page on the business's website. However, maybe the information we actually need is sitting on another page, like their about, services, or contact page. So what can we do about this? Crawl for AI has a feature called deep crawling that handles exactly this. If we activate it and set it to 1 level deep, it will also fetch the content of the links on the initial page. If we set it to 2 levels deep, it will scrape the links inside the links of the initial page. And if you check out Crawl4AI's official documentation, there are many more settings you can configure exactly to your needs, like max pages or excluding external domains. The another thing is the biggest factor driving up your OpenAI token costs is sending raw HTML. If those HTML tags aren't actually helping the LLM extract the data, switch Crawl4AI to return Markdown instead. Since Markdown is much shorter than HTML, you will be sending an input to the LLM with far fewer tokens to analyze. This will significantly drop your cost per row. Right now we are using the GPT 4.1 Nano model. You can see this in the Analyze with OpenAI node. This model is older, but it has worked best for me in terms of cost and performance. Feel free to experiment with OpenAI's reasoning models or larger models here to see if they work better for you. If you are using marketing software like Instantly, you can also integrate this pipeline to push the leads into it automatically. One limitation we need to be aware of is that since everything is running on our local machine, when our laptop computer goes to sleep or shuts down, the workflow will go to sleep too. If you want the system to run 24/7, you can easily deploy this setup to the cloud. Okay, great. You can download all the resources I mentioned in the video from the link in the description. I hope you found this system useful for your business. I designed this to be highly flexible, easy to understand for both technical and non-technical people, and adaptable to virtually any technical scenario. If you have any questions, drop them below and I will be happy to answer them. If you need much more than this workflow and want to work with me on this, you can book a call through my website, linked in the description. To support me reaching more people, please hit subscribe. See you in the next video. Take care.